Good stuff. Good stuff. Yes. We want to go ahead and get started. I don't know how you all normally do it, or you just want me to go ahead and get started.
I would say that we should at least give thanks and praises to the Most High.
Go for it.
We're here gathered today, still surviving, still alive.
Yes.
And I'm thankful for that.
Yes.
Gratitude for all blessings.
Thank you. Yes.
I would like to dedicate libations today to Renoko Rashidi. I wrote down a little bit of stuff about him. I've met him on 2 or 3 occasions. He's a very personable man, very wise and kind, gentle. He's born in 54, which means he died at 65 years of age. Historian, researcher, author of books and films, lecturers, activist, anthropologist. The major focus was on global African presence all over the world, before and after slavery. He visited 124 nations and looked in all of those nations to find positive evidence that African people had been there, were there, had existed, and had something to do with those civilizations.
Sure.
He wrote 18 books.
Sure.
One was an introduction to the study of classical civilizations. Another one was Unchained African Voices, which was a collection of poetry by death row inmates from San Quentin. And he put together, he worked with the Journal of Pan-African Studies, Africology. He received an honorary doctorate of divinity from Amun-Ra Theological Seminary in Los Angeles, California.
Sure.
And all I've really heard was that he was on a tour, leading a tour in Egypt when he passed earlier, well, last week now. I think it was Monday that he died. And one source that I heard said that they think he died of a heart attack. But then another one said that the cause of his death was undisclosed. So I don't know, but I just wanted to pay tribute and honor to him. Renoko Rashidi.
Sure.
Renoko Rashidi.
Sure.
Renoko Rashidi.
Sure. I think with that spirit, we can also just give faith and credence. Jamel, you mind standing up for us? Just give faith and credence to our ancestors, those who came before us, those who were unborn, those whose names we do not know, but for the life, to lead, to the life, the deeds, the legacy. We want to give praise to our ancestors, and on top of that, we can name some other ancestors that we want to give praises to, continue to keep them in existence, give them the strength for us to carry on, because those are the shoulders that we stand on as African men and women. And I'll start off with the Honorable Martin Josiah Garvin. Malcolm X.
Martin King Jr.
Ashe.
Toussaint Louverture.
Ashe.
Winnie Zinga.
Ashe. Queen Mother Moore.
Ashe.
Queen Ty.
Elijah Muhammad.
Ashe.
Number 2 Bakers.
Ashe. Ida B. Wells.
Danny Latamer.
Ashe.
I think it's Wilson.
Ashe.
Weezy Jr.
Ashe. Harriet Tubman.
Ivan McPherson.
Ashe.
William Still.
Ashe. Thomas Shankora. Those family members that may be in our direct lineage that also passed on, we will always remember them and know where our direct bloodline comes from. I'll start off with Amani Rashad Lee.
Here in Sarah Barnett.
Ashe.
Even Bronson Winkler.
Ashe. Eric Hernandez Lewis.
Ashe.
William and Harold Dunsmore.
Ashe.
Oscar Carolines.
Ashe. Papa.
Ashe.
life, the deeds, the legacy. Again, for those known, for those unknown, we say Ashe and keep your spirit alive. Ashe, 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 oh, what do I ask that one for? This time, any other commentary? I turn it back over to Brother Calvin. Ashe?
Yes. Want to say greetings to you all, as I always say, in the best of salutations. And for me, the best of salutations consists of 5. That's patience, prayer, power, peace, and prosperity. Want to thank you all for welcoming me or inviting me to play a part of this in-house into gathering, you know. And anytime I think of something that is in-house, I often think of something that is associated with bread. When I mean bread, I mean that is associated with something that's called money. And when we are living in this material world, in this society in which we live, we need that. Some would say that we don't need it, but we need that. There was a time when the Incas would trade chocolate. Chocolate was of value. Salt was of value. But it is contingent upon where one place his or her values, you know. And as it being the in-house into discussion, as I always trying to put things together, I write on anything, you know. So you see I'm pulling out a little piece of paper or a napkin that I wrote on. And we want to, talk about as much as we can, the spirit of into what I would like to give it a title, if I may, is, what are you into? What are you into? What are you into? Yes. And looking at the definition, as I try to dissect it, what we're going to pull from, we want to try to bring clarity as much as we can. Because for me, the aim, not the ultimate, but the aim is accountability. Is our accountability, what we into, is our accountability strong or is it weak? We would reveal, what one invested interest is in the state of that interest, And when I think of state, I think of a condition. And when I think of a condition, I say you can best diagnose anyone based upon the condition of the circumstances in which a person come out of. Yes. And that's biologically proven. When a child or a mother is giving birth, what is her mental state? What is her condition? What is her biological? What is her condition? What is she dealing with? And because it is imprinting is printing something on the child's mind, mind. And and that which is printing on the child mind, he or she, comes out into a world that other things have influence over the child, and that is the larger society. And when I think of that, I think of incographics, yes, because children learn in picture form, and picture form becomes a meaning, and that meaning is acted upon. What can you recall or recollect? Because even though the aim is accountability, we really want to deal with one's determine how socially coherent each and every one of us are that are present here. How coherent we are. I call it socially coherent. Yeah. Coherent has something to do with, associated with what you can recall, what you are clear about. Let's look at this definition. We're going to use this technology to see what it says here. Coherent. Let's take advantage of this opportunity. It says here that an argument or a theory or a policy that is logical and consistent. Because what we're going to see here is in this definition of, when it comes to the NTU spirit, as it embodies the leadership of this facility, all that what he was trying to display is that, be consistent, and in your argument, in your theory, because policy is driven by interest, but and be logical and consistent. Because I've come to realize this here is that we must not allow our emotions to dictate our logic or dictate our intelligence. It must not lead the way. So, but he would talk about, brother, then he would talk about the merging of the logic and motion, the merging of it, because Imam D. Muhammad talks about the balance of the logic and the emotion. Because far too many times we are emotional beings as well as spiritual beings, some will conclude. But we don't have to make emotional decisions. We make logical decisions. And that logical decision should be associated with what they call math, math. And that's having a understanding and awareness of yourself and your surrounding, or the consequences of one's actions. For example, how well are you able to do a task and do a job? It has nothing to do with your being a friend. It's how well you do that job or do that task, and how well you do that job or do your task. That is the best person that is qualified to be in that position. If that makes sense? So we want to be clear on, where each and every one of us are, because of what we are into. Because we can be into a lot of emotion. And this society says 9/10 is the possession of the law. So 9/10 out of time, we are under some form of possession. Yes. And some will call it very demonic. So what does that mean in the relevant terms? That 9 out of 10 times, do you believe that 9 out of 10 times that we are in disagreement with one another? That we are suspicious of each other? Huh? You do the odds or do the math. So we must overcome being suspicion of one another, because remember, if you are incoherent, that means you're inconsistent. You're not consistent. Instead of being logical, you're illogical. Instead of being rational, you're being irrational. Then you have a sense of being mentally incapacitated. Yes. And when you're mentally incapacitated, that means you're unable to reason. Yes, you're unable to reason. Because the faculty that has been given to us is the faculty to be able to reason. Yeah. You ever talk with a person or a child, whatever, and you're trying to explain something to them, and you ain't able to reason with them. You know what I'm saying? So that means that they are incoherent, they're illogical, they're irrational, and they could, justify any and everything and make it so when we know that it's not so, because it doesn't add up. It doesn't add. The math is wrong. The math is wrong. So in this topic of discussion, into spirit, what are you into is really what is the condition or the state of your interest. Because we want to learn about something and we want to learn about someone. And the primary person, the best project that we can work on and learn from is ourselves. Yes. So we want to find out what is, in this definition, what is your position? My position, and I speak from the position of resiliency. Because biologically, resiliency is the author of success. Yes. And biologically, I say I can prove it because all of those sperm cells and you and I made it. That's being damn resilient. You know what I'm saying? So yes, that's my position. And then we're dealing what we're advocating. And the definition at the end of it, it deals with efficacy. Efficacy, supported by efficacy. This into spirit. What supports, what supports you. Yes. Then there is an argument where it is required, and we realize what is asked of us and what we ask of each other. For the most part, really, we ask just to be, just respect. I ask you just to respect me. So, but then in the definition, when we read it, it has a inside and outside force. And Marcus Garvey says the greatest force that we have is success. And he deals with traditions in the definition, rather alluded in the definition. Traditions and modifications. Because we can be stuck in traditions. And, people always talk about race. Race. What is that? That can't be biologically proven. You know what I'm saying? But we're still pushing race. Race. What I'm finding out is that which is killing us, for lack of, if I use it to be very extreme, is refusing, is not accepting change. Yes, not accepting change. And that's why I say it's modified. We can deal with the tradition, but yet we got to modify it. You know what I'm saying? Because change is the product. Because don't get me wrong, people will play on your emotions. They will play on, because people need attention. I've learned that people suffer from the value of lack of self-worth. You know what I'm saying? So they need that attention. So this is a serious matter, man, that we're dealing with. We're saying what we are in, what are you into? What we are into? What is our position? What is our interest? What is the state of our interest? And remember, there is an investment. When you spend time with your children, you all have children, you all invested something in that child. And when you invested something, you are serious about it. And because that is a soul, that's investment. So once we become aware of that investment, it puts us in a better position to understand our position as well as what we are advocating and what is able to support that position. Yes. I'm going to read something from several books. And then I'm going to give the definition, and then we're going to extract from it, elaborate on it, as well as you read from the book, read from the definition as well. Now, what we want to be clear on is that how do we know that we are comfortable with the knowledge that we possess? We want to find out how comfortable we are with the knowledge that we possess. Sometimes you may be uncomfortable. There's nothing wrong with being uncomfortable. But because when you're uncomfortable with something, that brings forth growth. You know what I'm saying? That brings forth growth. So we have to understand that which we are comfortable with and which we're uncomfortable. But you can tell possibly when a person is uncomfortable with something because he or she becomes easily agitated. Yes, that's true, Bill. That's true, Bill. That applies to any me, anybody else. You know, they become very uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, it's not knowledge or it's intellect. It is governed by. He's being controlled by his emotions. His emotions. Yes, and that's what bring down countries. Emotions. You know, emotions. They. You know, if you're looking in the society in which we live in today, you see people are facing all the time, facing, because we have been trained to look at things at face value rather than looking at the cause and the symptoms. Because you can tell if the times don't measure up, you know, that means, you know, you're not dealing, you know, you're not dealing with the seeing thing, dealing with the causes and the symptoms. Because one thing we can look at nature, let's learn from nature. We're talking about that which we are resistant to or don't change. Seasons change, don't it? So that's required for us to what? To change. You know, at one time, you know, I didn't look as good as I look now. You know, but I changed. I changed. We all change. But we all age. And we have to accept the fact. But in the society in which we live, you know, we go through, try to modify, try to act like we're younger than what we really are. And my body is not the same as it once was. You know what I'm saying? So we change. And these are some of the things that we have to accept. And we must become comfortable with that change, because I realize that change is a product of human effort. Now, I want to share something in this wise, if I may, about a text that says a helpmate, right? We have been chained, we have been programmed to think that everything is associated with sex. You know, it's challenged by it. But the helpmate really means to help one be able to deal with this. It's this physical environment. It's not a woman. The help, we talk about this, and physical environment is designed to help us. That's what that means. But it is a benefit to us, this physical environment, this material world. But somebody has tricked us, and we look at it from a second. Somebody has taken this mindset that this environment or the physical environment is only a benefit for them and not a benefit for everybody else. So they control these resources, you know what I'm saying? They control the way you think. They control the manner and way in which we interact one with another. I'm still talking about the into spirit. Huh? What are you into? What is the state or the condition of your interest? What are you investing in? There was a test about certain ethnic groups who took the test, and the test is designed to see how you process information. But some spend more time playing computer games, but others spend time testing, because time equals test. The ones spend more time studying, they got better results. Huh? Better results because they spend time studying. So yes, what are you into? Now, there is a book that I'm going to share, another passage or text, African Life and Customs. Because now I'm dealing with traditions, as is, we'll see it in the definition, tradition, by Edward W. Blatton. Industrialism. There was another book out called the De-Industrialization of America, which means one's doesn't have the capacity, it's still with capacity of being able to not invest in your own country. You know what I'm saying? So therefore you would do it outside of your country. And we're challenged by not investing in our thinking, in ourselves. And even investing in our family. You know what I'm saying? But yet at the same time, we can invest in certain careers while our family become neglected. So how do we balance and measure that? You know, what's your position on that? He says this here. Having endeavored to describe, this is for colonization, describe the basic unit of African society, the family, and to show how this is organized, and the effect of this organization, industrialism, because we are industrial people, upon animal life, the vitality and the perpetuity of population. It says that the African system there's no wide, it is submerged. It is submerged, and when it is submerged, it learns how animals cooperate with one another. Because what's most important is the principle of cooperation. Because I realize that I cut it short because adequate cooperation leads to proper communication. I'm still talking about as best as I can to come into the tradition of the importance of cooperation rather than competition. What are we competing against? Are we competing against one another? Rather, we should be in cooperation with one another. History has proven that who would best elevate or represent the race? Martin Delaney, Douglas, yes. You know what I'm saying? Booker T, W. Du Bois, you know what I'm saying? And Farrakhan, you know what I'm saying? Imam W.D. Muhammad. I mean, I'm just using these names. You know what I'm saying? Who would best represent the race? And we can look at it in organizations to now. Who's best leading the way and leading the model who best represent the race? And we know there's no such thing as a race. So therefore, the language that we created in a world oppressive environment that we perpetuate in promoting is off kill right away. Because race is a competition. You know what I'm saying? I want to get there before you. The same thing when A. Philip Randolph passed the baton to Dr. King, you know what I'm saying, in the March on Washington, whatever they call it. You know, who's going to best stand before this, I don't want to use the term slave master, who best stand before this person or those people who have put us in the condition, the situation that we're in, and we want to stand proud and say, yes, I'm the best one for the job. Because if you're the best one for the job, that means that there are people behind you that are supporting you at the expense of devaluing and downplaying and perpetuating a lie. Exploiting your people, you know? And that's what I'm saying. We see that it's playing out in organizations today. So maybe here at TNAT, he maybe wants to be set the standard and be the model. That this is not what we're all about. We're not trying to be perpetuate and promote a lie and saying and being at odds and competition. We want to be the model, or this system want to be the model of a wellness center. That when it comes to our feelings, when it comes to our emotions, when it comes to our thinking, our thoughts, and when it comes to our attitude, and when it comes to the language in which we use and which we speak, because the inner conversations that we have with ourselves more than likely determine our circumstances, and as well as the actions. As we see here, we see that there is an open market, if I may use that, in regards to books, in regards to things that would be able to consume, that would help you not only mentally, but will also help you, health-wise. And so it is a wellness center. It is a wellness center. Yes. So yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, man. So, but what has happened? What has put us in a deep sleep? One brother said this. He said, what happened? What put us in a deep sleep, man? He says, the church. Yeah, no, don't throw nothing at me. The church turned where it was once united. The new church now is disunited. Then man turns to it and listen to it and change things for the benefit of material wealth and material gain. Yes. So it'll put you in a deep sleep. You know what I'm saying? This material world and this materiality I'll talk about is nothing. It is the misuse and the abuse and the misuse and the abusiveness of it. So That's why I said about relationships. When we're talking about this creation, it's the best body of knowledge, where it's designed for us to benefit from this physical environment. And it's not associated with, a helpmate as opposed to a woman or something that is sexual. It's dealing with this physical environment. And that's the wisdom in it. That's really the wisdom in it. So, if people still thinking in terms of somebody coming out being created from a rib, you tell there's something really wrong with that person mentally. Something wrong with that person mentally. They still thinking a woman comes from a rib, that's somebody wrong with them mentally. If they still thinking like that. But it really represents one's temperament. Really one's temperament. But yes, so we want to realize that we have to change our thinking. And that's hard to do. That's hard to do. If you remember, I said it earlier about a memory. My first childhood memory, what I can recall, and it still sticks with me today, is when I bought the 1971 album or record, Marvin Gaye, What's Going On. That sticks with me, you know what I'm saying? And it's 50 years from now, and the song's still relevant. What's going on? What's going on? That stuck with me. So childhood memories stick with me. Well, what is the purest memory that you have? Now, I have some bad memories, as I may use that word, and they still stick with me too. And they still affect me. So I'm trying to process these memories, these bad memories, in association with these good memories, and I have to think in a matter of a way that all is designed as a test for me. I have to see it as a benefit for me, as opposed to a liability. Because, like I always say, people are always saying about what Africa did in the past, but hey, what are we doing right now in the present and the future? Because the past is just a reference point, it's not a place of residence. So people are perpetuating and promoting and making themselves feel good about the past. They talk Marcus Garvey, but Marcus Garvey says, man, there ain't no need to relish in the past. He said that, don't relish in the past. And he also alluded to no one has no monopoly on intelligence. No race is above any other race, and we know there's no such thing as a race. But yet people push that silliness, that's foolishness, and people buying into it. I'm just saying to say that enough is enough. So we're still talking about coming into spirit, and the theme and the topic is, what are you into? And that what you are into is that what you are invest and have an invested interest in. Because if you are into it and that which is into you and you have no control of it, it possesses you, it consumes you, it overwhelms you, it takes over you. It takes over your mind. And that which takes over your mind, your body will naturally follow. And when I think of body, I think of information. And also I think of a body of knowledge. Now, when I think of a body of knowledge, it's associated with water. Water is very sensitive, very sensitive, very sensitive. Yes, it is. As it is being sensitive, you drop a pebble in the water. What does it do? A rock in the water, what does it do? It ripples, right? You know what it's doing? That's a broadcasting system. That's what that means. What I'm trying to say is that people know these things, but yet they misuse and abuse the intelligence and knowledge. They tell you one thing when it really means something else. That makes sense to you? Because it's broadcasting, it's sharing, it's going about. And that's the ripple effect. Because the first thing that you destroy of a people, you destroy how they see themselves, the image of how they see themselves. But yeah, I must admit, I see some of these pretty specimens, you know what I'm saying? I call them specimens. Forgive me for saying that. I want that, you know what I'm saying? But needless to say, one brother says that we have to not make decisions out of emotions. So we got to realize that that's not one who I can say is going to be my wife. So they've been looking for what they call a cheap thrill. A cheap thrill. So we have to learn how to best distinguish between making a logical decision and an emotional decision. Because you don't want no one in your life, that's not going to play a part in helping you serve as a benefit to cultivate the benefit of this physical world. Because it is said that, I'm not sure, they say black folks don't want nothing. All they want is food, clothes, and shelter. That means that people's ambition is dying. Ambition is dying. We have to become more ambitious, display more ambition, man. You know how people go to school. This is how you become intellectually lazy. You go to school and you get a doctorate degree and you say, well, I got my degree, so I don't have to do nothing no more. You know what I'm saying? So you become intellectually lazy. You become dead. Huh? And that's another challenge, because life is a living organism. You're always evolving and always growing, always learning. So what are you interested in? Huh? What are you investing your time in? What are you investing your feelings in? What are you investing your emotions in? Huh? What are you investing in? What you're saying to yourself? And then therefore your actions will follow. That's the question. So, as I said earlier, we want to figure out what our position is, what we're advocating, what supports our position, and what is required in order to produce an end result. An end result. And I say the end result for us is to be coherent, is to be, as the definition says, is to be logical and consistent. Be logical and consistent. Logical and consistent. Yes. We're going to read the definition. Someone can read the definition if they choose to.
What is NTU?
Yes.
The term NTU, pronounced NTU, is a Bantu concept that describes a universal, unifying force that touches upon all aspects of existence. NTU is the basic essence that unifies the universe, and as such, it is the essence of life. NTU is the force in which being and what's that? Coalescing, and insofar human beings are concerned. NTU is both immanent and spiritual force inside, and transcendent in a spiritual force outside.
That's it? Okay. Let's look at that. Let's break that down. I'm approaching this holistically. In doing so, I just want to try to coordinate time. This is common humanity teaching. Coordinate times and coordinate the time. The end result is to become socially coherent. Socially coherent.
Can you define socially coherent for one time for those that want to hear?
Yeah, you know, your argument or a policy that is associated with being logical and consistent.
So in a social realm, how would that look in a social realm?
No,
Logical and social.
you know, you want to be, you know, in what you do, you want to be consistent about it. You know, you go to your job, you know, basically every day, right? You're consistent. You know, you get up in the morning, you go do what you want to do. That's consistent. You know, and it's very logical for you to do so because it's going to produce, you know, an end result. You know, but there are those that do things that are very illogical and justify the illogical and irrational behavior, and they do it on a consistent basis. So the challenge is the intentions. The intentions. That's the intentions. In the business world, you want to be intentional of what you're doing. You know, for example, in this society, they always throw things out there to give a litmus test and then a status data, data. They're intentional about it. You know, they know what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? But it's the intent. The intentions behind it. That's why they got motive of intent. When somebody harms somebody, they want to know his motive of intent.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but then we deal with the influence that something influences your attitude, it influences your feelings, it influences your emotions, it influences your thinking. You know what I'm saying? It influences you. Then therefore it consumes you. And to a point, man, you're just like an automatic pilot. Huh? You're just doing things automatic and don't know why you're doing it. Huh? And that's a challenge. But that's what I have. That's what I have against the culture, because we're dealing with the culture. We're dealing with trends. We're dealing with institutions, and we're dealing with principles too as well. You know what I'm saying? Because when you deal with the trends, the fashions, we follow the fashions and the trends. But they must be supported by principles. You know, when the principles are gone, then what you think about the institution? It ain't worth nothing because it ain't got no, the principles are gone. Then it's a reflection of the what? The culture. Does that make sense? Yes. And because Dr. Seymour said this, that you have to take a very serious look at culture when it becomes destructive. Huh? We always push culture, but damn, if your culture is becoming destructive, you got to take a very serious look at that culture. Because culture is dynamic. It always changes. It ain't the same. It always changes. At one time, we know the word culture comes from the word agriculture. One time we use a certain tool to do certain things. Now we may use a different tool. Technology changes. You know what I'm saying? Because it's what the culture. That's why I said about we have to still looking at the things at face value and look at the causes and the symptoms, because that which is killing us is refusing to change, refusing to accept change. We all change. So, but yeah. So yes, the definition. Let's look at that when we deal with the position, the argument, and what is being advocated and what is being supported, as well as what is being communicated. As I try to embody the wellness center here as much as possible, as much as I can, in the leadership, as well as those who are a part of the leadership. Because this is no esoteric knowledge. We're going to rise or we're going to fall together. You know what I'm saying? It's no good to use, we're all big eyes. And the environment here is conducive to raise us up, to give us a greater sense of awareness, a greater sense of value. And that's what a father or a mother wants to do to the child. You know what I'm saying? This is the thing. We have to learn to be better rather than being bitter. But yet, we're far too many times, we're learning to be better at being bitter. That's true, Bill. So, let's look at the definition. And after I share it, then we ask questions. Into a Bantu word, a concept. A concept is an idea. It says humanity will be driven by ideas. I realize that people are only responding due to the extent of the damage and the injury that has been done to their humanity. People are only responding due to the extent and the injury that has been done to their humanity. Hue is associated from the word earth. What are you doing to the earth? Because what you put in, it's gonna come back. So it is environmental concerns. So anytime you come up with a concept, it has to deal with environmental concern. What we must learn from, that people can come up with an idea, and it's draw their idea from a myth. The myth is designed to instill faith in you, but the illustration is not true. That's some hell of a shit. But we have to be clear with that. We have to be distinguishing that. They may not be true. Remember I said about a helpmate in the Bible. It's talking about the Bible. Ain't talking about a woman. They talk about that which helps, that which this earth is designed, this physical earth is designed for us to benefit from. The earth is designed to help us. You know what I'm saying? The earth, this creation is designed. If so, as Chica Diop would say, the rain falls from the sky and it falls to the earth and it produces a crop. He said, got to be a God somewhere. So God is Algarian in thought. That's what he said, Algarian in thought. You know what I'm saying? Because it produces a crop. Because we're here to be, it said be fruitful, productive, and multiply. People associate that with sex. No, it's designed for us to be productive. This is somebody who screwed up somebody thinking, and everything is this geared on that sex. Listen, sometimes, if you're 40 years old and somebody has to keep telling you you look beautiful, something wrong with you. You should know that automatically. But this is the emotional. There are important things in life. If you are focused on a mission and a calling and know your purpose in life and know your position and the point at which you're arguing your point, you ain't got time for that stuff. This is serious matters, man. Serious stuff out here. So, the concept that describes, giving a description, a profile, a universal unifying force. So what that's saying to me, that the guidance. This is guidance. The guidance is a universal force. This universe is a guidance. This whole universe. Oneness is stronger than conflict, and unity is stronger than diversity. This universe is a guiding force. So it is universal. Universal guide, because we're universal people. We're universal people. And when you have universal guidance, you understand that you're a universal people, that means you understand your capacity. Your capacity, what you can and what you cannot take. So therefore, we need to go through is capacity training. Capacity training, which means you go up, you know what you're doing, and you want to produce a particular result. And you have the resources. When you say with your son, you're using the resources to produce a particular result. Because the first step, I say, in the maturation process is that you got to have understanding. Because once you have the understanding, it leads to the second component, then you understand your tolerance level. You know how much you can take from your children. You understand that. So we have to understand, and then you're teaching them how much they can take, because sometimes you may go to a school to interact with someone and learning, and you say, man, I can't take that because you know something ain't right. Even in relationships, one with another, we know what we can take and what we cannot take. So therefore, there must be boundaries and limitations that must be drawn. And when one exceed or go beyond those boundaries and limitations, and then they will be exposed. And this is what religion has done to us too. It exceeded their boundaries and their limitations. So it's being exposed. So even the mentality of a person or thinking, what they're saying, it ain't measure up with their actions. That means they have been in what? They have been exposed. So exposure is key too, which means what we expose our children to. Because children learn in picture form. Once again, the picture form becomes a meaning, becomes an emotion and acting on, because children are the extension of their parents' social relationship. So, into Bantu word, integrity, the concept, the idea that describes a universal unifying force. So, what this into spirit is describing, and what we are into, is becoming a universal unifying force. And what I'm trying to say is that this place here is helping us to facilitate that. I want to be clear. And that the greatest force is success, as Marcus Garvey says. But yes, in that unifying force that touches our human emotion. What's the guy who created the store called the Marathon? What, Nipsey Hussle or somebody? I believe it was. Yeah, he knew it was a marathon. You know what I'm saying? The brother was on to something. You know, I'm not into, a lot of that, but I know the brother was on to something. You know, what if it's correct, it's correct to me. He was on to something. You know what I'm saying? And then he sold his demos for a lot of money, and it created a lot of hoopla. You know what I'm saying? But change, and some people, it's difficult. That's what's killing people, is people are not accepting to change. You know what I'm saying? Change. And change is a product of human effort. This is a marathon, man. It's a marathon. We want things immediately, and that's not going to happen. All you have to do, go back to nature again. Your child didn't come out immediately, did it? That was a process. And that process teaches you patience. Everything is designed to teach us patience. And when you learn that patience, and fact about it, it becomes so synchronized with you that you don't even feel it no more. You don't even feel it no more. And that's how it is when people say things and talk things against you. Man, I don't even feel that no more, man. Because you're focused on something. A problem only becomes a problem is when you take your eyes off your goal. So, in emotion, now, this universal unifying force, this guidance now, we got guidance. We're establishing a position there. And supporting our argument. And making our case and what we're advocating for. It touches the emotion. Then it's building upon. There's a foundation now. We're building a foundation. And all that you do, you got to have a foundation. A foundation. That's why in this society, they call the such and such foundation. You know what I'm saying? They building on something. What are you standing on? What are your principles? What are your morals? What are your values? As I stated earlier about the trends, the principles, the institution, and the culture. The foundation, we're unifying all aspects of our existence. We want to unify all aspects of our existence. And we want to move beyond existence. That's the asar, really, to unifying all aspects of life. So we're dealing with a unifying force. A universal unifying force is our guidance, it is our leadership, and it is our foundation. Huh? Anyone that comes and don't push a universal unifying force has become an enemy to his own humanity. A unifying force. What I say? The universal. What Miles Garvey called the universal. Yeah. But it had a psychological twist on it. People got to come and get to you and put a psychological twist on it, what they may use, just to get to your attention. Because people appeal to your sentiments. They appeal to your senses. That's why I said I'll make you fishers of men. That's appealing to you. The senses the fish got gills. That's his senses. Yeah, that's what that means. So, then we deal with, now we're getting to the definition, the basic of the essence. Huh? The basic of the essence of our existence is that unifies the universe. In conjunction, which means don't think that you're beyond reproach. A conjunction is something that is being disputed. Don't think you ain't beyond reproach. Somebody can challenge you. No one is not beyond reproach. You can be challenged. I say the only challenge that people have is feelings of inadequacy. That's the only primary challenge that they have is feelings of, am I good enough? Yes, you are good enough. So we have to learn to accept the criticism as a teaching of the criticizer. That only strengthens you. Accept the criticism. Because we do have defense egos. Defend our ego. One defense ego, man, I don't expect much from nobody. You're just defending your ego. That's all. That's cool. That's what you do. That shows you what emotional suppression, the causes and consequence of emotional suppression. If we've been dealing with so much negative stuff, that means that our positive stuff, emotions, is being suppressed. You know what I'm saying? So, emotional suppression. So, yes, in conjunction. But that also leads to debate. As Shirley Chisholm say, she debate to liberate. And as such, I'm reading the definition, is the essence of life. Our intrinsic nature is good. Our intrinsic nature is good. But it must be cultivated. It must be cultivated. Yes. So we're trying to understand and comprehend the essence of life. That's what we're trying to comprehend, the essence of life. And intrinsically, our nature is good, but it must be cultivated. What I'm saying is this here, is that the first flag is the star, the moon, and the suns. The man made a flag that he stretched out and put stars and moons, a little crescent, a little red, black, and green on it. You know what I'm saying? He's benefiting from this creation, this universe, but he's benefiting for his own well-being. But he's trying to find his life. He's trying to he or she's trying to find the essence of, or the basis of life, or trying to find out what life is all about. He really don't know. He thinks that he does. That's very arrogant of him, and very deceptive too. Oh yeah. And people playing on other people's minds, if they know it all. Nobody has no monopoly on intelligence. What was humans around when the mountains was created? No, he wasn't around. Humans is almost a new phenomenon. You don't know it all. We're still trying to learn. Why do you think we go to school? The Greeks were so bad. I like them. They bad people. They say it took them 40 years. They said 40 years to acquire a certain degree. They say they were smart. They said, damn, our life expectancy is only 30 or so. Man, we got to drop that down to 10 years. At least we can live out and achieve what we want to achieve. But that makes sense. That was change. Man. That's smart. Sometimes we attribute bad things to certain groups of people, and it ain't necessarily so. We can learn from everybody, So yeah. So we try to understand the essence of life, intrinsic good. N2 is the force, which is being cold scheme, that word, which means, then we understand where one coming from, which means a mass or a whole, of combined elements coming together. And Earth, Wind, and Fire called the elements of the what? Of the universe. Coming together. Because all we're doing right now, we're doing what? We're coming together. We're pulling together. I realize there's a lot of organizations, but there's less cooperation. You can be organized, but you ain't cooperating. You know what I'm saying? Cooperation is important. So, as far as a degree which means a temperament. So we have to develop the right attitude. We have to develop the right attitude about ourselves as well as about others. So we have an attitude about a certain group of people, but that's the attitude that you have about them. You have to look at the attitude that you have about yourself first. Brother Dennis will call it a deficit perspective. A deficit perspective. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So yeah, man, we have to develop the right attitude about ourselves as well as others, and not be misled by it, because we're trying to establish something. And we established the foundation, but now we're trying to establish our position in that which we are advocating for and advocating about. And it goes on to say, for advocating, again, the spiritual and outside force. I realize that anything in its natural form or natural state is spiritual. When you take something out of its natural state or natural form, some will associate that was evil, and they say evil is backwards living. But you're losing your nutrients. You're losing your nutrients. Or we want to deal with our true noble attributes or qualities of life. Have you ever seen a pure, wholesome human being? Have you? I haven't. I haven't seen him. I mean, he or she is not driven by emotions. He don't let outside influence get the best of him. You know, he's not caught up in images. Material wealth doesn't faze him or her. I'm just giving attributes of it. Don't necessarily mean that it's so, but this is my thinking that I'm pulling off of it. You know what I'm saying? Because we have been contaminated. The point I'm trying to make is that when a child comes out of his mama's womb, he comes that in that belly and that comes out. That's pure. That's pure. But when they come out, they become contaminated by the world. So they change their attitude, their perspective, it change. You know what I'm saying? So you got to get to them yourself, because if you don't get to them, that means they're going to become possessed and under the influence of this larger society. That's challenging, though. That's challenging. So we want to make sure that we have our attitude correct, because what they call slavery was a dehumanization process. It changed your attitude. You know what I'm saying? It dehumanized. It makes you become incoherent. It become inconsistent in your logic. You become very, very illogical. Yes. Just the thinking that a person think that they can do that and treat a person a certain way. So yeah. So advocating for this spiritual and outside force, because they have to work together. Because I hear people always talk about spirituality, I'm a spiritual person. That's why I say anything is natural form or natural state is spiritual. Man, I'm dealing in the spirit. Spirit is energy. You know, it's energy. You know, combining elements, coming together. I'm in the spirit. This physical world. Man, let me tell you something, man. You have to deal with this physical world. You can't escape it unless you die physically. And then we have another problem of emotional suppression. People are always living in denial. You know, these so-called famous people die. They say, dang, dude, I just saw him in Alabama. I just saw him in the Bahamas. Huh? You trying to keep something that dead alive. That's emotional suppression. Huh? I'm gone. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we had to go through these things, man. That's denial. But yeah, man, so coming and working together as a unifying force. We want to come together and work as a unifying force. And what we're advocating for is to, in the representation of our true self. When I mean our true self, I mean investing in our very own soul, and must do it in a very therapeutic way, and very medicinal, and as opposed to our relationships and in our thinking that become less toxic. And all that is done must be done when it comes to having what is called empirical evidence to support our position, what we advocate from, and as we continue to evolve and grow as respectful and decent human beings. And one of the things I would say in closing, that when it comes to automatic distorted thoughts, that we need to become less judgment focused. And judgment focus is defined in this way: when you view yourself simply, or rather you view yourself and others and events in terms of evaluations as good and bad or superior, inferior, rather than simply describing, accepting, or understanding. You are continually measuring yourself and others according to arbitrary standards, and finding that you and others fall short. You are focused on the judgment of others as well as your own judgment of yourself. I didn't perform well in college, or if I take up tennis, I won't do well. Or look how successful he or she is, and I am not successful. Overcoming being judgment focused as much as we can. Any questions, comments, concerns, and challenges? What are you into? What is your position? What are you communicating? What are you advocating? And what is the evidence that supports it? The floor is open. Bless your heart.
Exhale first.
Well, I think you did a wonderful job. Per usual. I thought it was very thorough. Thought you had some, I would say some thoughts in it, or some comments in it that probably were controversial. What I mean controversial, I mean probably would be, I think, probably easier to swallow, with a little more context. But I think it was a wonderful presentation. I think it was very thorough. I think that it did do a lot of, it takes, to digest, it would take a lot of thought for some individuals, including myself. So some of the things that you mentioned, I think you did awesome. Some of the things I think you mentioned just kind of in passing, right? Meaning that the audience are at a certain level, right? And I think that some of the things probably would have been a lot more clear if it was some context in some of the because I think this is a graduate program, right? This is a graduate level program you just took us through, right? Some of us come in on the undergraduate level. And so on the undergraduate level, I think that just on some of the concepts, it'll probably help even me to some degree if it was a little context with it. But again, I think you did a wonderful job. Let's get started. So, I would ask, so I know you mentioned race a few times, and you mentioned it in saying that race has no relevance.
Say it's outdated. It's outdated.
race has no relevance. So I guess my question would be, right? So I think that how can I phrase it in the question? I understand the concept. I understand the concept that race is, is not necessarily a thing, right? It's more or less a concept, that was created
Mhm.
to do what it was intended to do.
Right.
However, I do also think that it is so heavily, kind of mentioned, or it impacts us in so many ways.
Mhm.
I think it'll probably, for me, how can I phrase this question? I mean, like, how do you deal with society, with that philosophy, and still be impacted by that same notion, right? So the notion is that race doesn't exist, right?
Well, I just said it's outdated. You know what I'm saying? There's no such thing as a race. Yeah.
Absolutely. I got you. I'm in agreement.
Yeah, biologically.
I'm in agreement,
Mhm.
right? But I guess my question is, how do you still move, handle yourself, or how do you operate in a society where everyone else sees race,
Yeah.
and you're in a situation where race doesn't exist?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anytime a person asks a question, it is a question of governance, which means that how the idea of anything, how it governs your thinking, your thoughts, and your behavior or your actions. If it is consuming you and getting the best of you, then it's governing you rather than you governing it. And what I am finding out is that people are continue to use something to govern your thinking and your thought. It's if you cannot think other than what they are telling you how to think. And that's the challenge. That's what bothers me. You know what I'm saying? And that's my gripe on that, because it takes on a form of imprisonment. They're controlling you. You know what I'm saying? And this is what the society is like. This is society is continuing to perpetuate and promote, and all we're doing is becoming really, I would like to say, agents of it. Like an attorney, you're representing it. That what you are against is that what you're representing. Go ahead.
So I think you pose a good question. I think when it comes to the concept of race, I think it depends on how one uses it in their life. So I think Boyd back in the day had like an essay he wrote that was saying what you really was saying, like, even though there is no scientific merit that says it can be biologically proven, we're functioning in a society where we're categorized by race, I think if a person or group of people, this is my thoughts. If a person or group of people want to use the term race, and if they use it as a tool or a vehicle of self-betterment, self-empowerment, and it's, as we all would oftentimes say, it's serving them, it's something that is bringing about healthy results, I will not do. Now, if it becomes what we often see today, where the concept and the idea of race is being used to take us away from what the definition says is unifying and bringing us together and connecting us, and it's being divisive, then I would suggest and argue, well, we may need to reevaluate how we're looking at it. There are groups who function in America on U.S. soil who don't subscribe to race. Some are people even. They try to flow and go by their ethnicity. Like I have students that might be from the islands or the continent, and their heritage is important. Their culture is important to them. It gives them a sense of identity and belonging. And that's really what they subscribe to, and it actually was new for them to come and see how stuff is so race-based here. And then there's people who operate, as they would probably say, in a non-race-specific reality. I even know nowadays, I've seen where, like, on forums, if you have in different places, applications, different things, you have an option to opt out of even defining what you say you are. Now, me personally, I could flow in either. I could flow in either direction. If I have to say I'm black, African American, cool. All right. You know, I do know, and even the group spoke about it and posted, even earlier in the book. It's a social construct. So I try to operate where I'm aware of the fact that it's a construct, and human race we can go beyond the limited confines of race, but I think it also depends on this, like you said, context. I think it really depends on the situation and the circumstance that we find ourselves in. I think it's a good question. I think for many, we're so used to operating with with a race-based kind of way to identify. There's even race first rally and all these types of different things. Like, people put a lot of stock into race, but I think human beings are too complex to solely just say race. Like, some people, even now, there's this big thing, intersectionality. So, like, there's the gender thing now, and there's all different types of things. But a lot of times, I can roll with it, because if that's what I gotta say for me and you to vibe and rap, if you can get where I'm coming from, alright then. I can roll with it. But I'm trying to be limited to that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if I can again, right? So I guess my second part of my question goes back to social coherency, right?
Yeah.
So if we identify that race has no relevance, right? And I don't know if I was very clear on that question, like how we operate in society, but society is kind of really based on race. If we feel as though race isn't, it does play a big part, whether we want to accept it or not. It plays a big part. And so even if you identify as, neutral or not being, any race, how do you operate in a society where, race plays such a major role? How do you operate it? What functions are you doing? So back to social coherentness, right? And I think what you were saying was like to be innocent, right?
Well, yeah. The thing is, though, that's the challenge. We are still stuck. We're imprisoned by it. It don't bother me. It may bother other people, but it don't bother me. We're unable to reason from the process, reason with progression, I say. You know what I'm saying? Because every time we think of black and white, we always think of something confrontational. First of all, we're living in a word oppressive environment. You know what I'm saying? It is words that are used that oppress people. You know what I'm saying? Because before there was black and white, the certain ethnic groups they looked at people as their physical features. That's how they identified with people. You know what I'm saying? By their physical features. Maybe the Greeks, they didn't look at people as associated with a race. This is a concoction that somebody come up with so that they could benefit from that. So they just are exploiting you. What I'm saying is that people, what is oppressing us is ignorance. Ignorance is oppressing us. Ignorance is the result of hostility as if there's nothing else to be learned, whether we want to accept that or not. That's what's going on. So we have to move past that. You know what I'm saying? I know it's a challenge, but we have to move past it. If we are to go beyond race, if we are to go beyond class, if we are to go beyond gender, religion, economics, education, and politics, we have to go beyond it. Yes.
So, in order to move beyond that, do we have to push against it, like when it's pushed on us to accept the concept of race and all these other things? I would think, is it a way that we have to push back on the miseducation, the agenda?
Good point.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and actually, yes, that's, and you have to do it. And if you look at a history, anyone that comes to try to help a people, they do something gradually. You know what I'm saying? For example, if you look at what they call the Nation of Islam, the brother Farad Muhammad, he came, he did a psychological twist, and you look at other, can't recall someone else will come in. You got to do things gradually, because, if the rabbit, you got a rabbit and a turtle, and the rabbit has the falsehood, he gonna get there before the turtle got the truth. So we must go through a re-socialization process. We must become reorientated, re-educated, and give new word of being rehabilitated. We have to. Look at how it's still the same thing is still going on over and over and over again. You would think that we would have learned from it, but they're using these words, and they continue to use these same words, and it's continuing to perpetuate and promote the myth, the lie. And we saying that it is so, and it ain't so. Now, like I said earlier, you can use something to instill faith in the people, but the illustration in which you use it ain't true. And that's what myths does. Myths can be used. Myths are used in that way. It don't mean that it's true, but they're using to instill something in you. Yep. It gets your attention. Yep. So that's the challenge, is being able to distinguish that. You know what I'm saying? To be able to distinguish that. And knowing why, if people would know why it's being used in the manner way in which they're using it, that'd be better for it. That makes sense?
I think that it has like it has a twofold, though, right?
Yeah.
It's twofold, because once you've been denied something, or something has been, you've been degraded in such a way, I think that ultimately what happens is you begin to take pride in it.
Yes, sir.
Right? And
Yes,
so
sir.
once you begin to take pride of it,
Yes,
pride
sir.
in it,
Yeah.
now you've been degraded so much, now I'm proud about it.
Yeah.
Now you ask me to give up what I had to build up.
Now you own it. I'm telling you on it, because there's a teaching in that in the peer recovery thing. Is that whereas, and I use this, is that they give you, say that what you hold on the most, if that is taken from you, what would you do? That's how you test it. That's why brother came, we got on history, like Imam came and he dealt with the Nation of Islam. He took the lessons away because he was holding on to it. It's time to move on to that. That's why I say culture, Dr. Seymour say, culture is dynamic. If when it becomes destructive, you got to take a very serious look at it. You got to get rid of it. You got to get rid of it, man. Any gamer got rid of it. And people didn't know it. Because what has happened is that you look at something that is lost rather than look at something that is designed to transform you. We got to look at people do things, take things away from you to train. You got a child do wrong, you take something away from them.
Take their phone.
Yeah. Take their phone. Because it's designed to what? To help them so you don't become so dependent on it. Because it serves as a distraction. And I don't like getting religious stuff. That's what people call religious. That's what called Satan does. He distracts you. It's a distraction, man. And we are blinded. People become blinded by rhetoric. Blinded by rhetoric. It's challenging, man. But we're in a transition, though, the society in which we live. We're in a transition, man. We really are. Good point you said, too, is that, you find ways to gradually resist it. It's like a child. Always look at biological spirit. Look at things biologically. Excuse me, for example. If you're breastfeeding a child, sooner or later you're weaning the child off. Off that breast, off that milk. But people are still on milk. They still want to be a child. Because they behave in a child way. They very emotional. They vacillate up and down. We're still childish. Don't continue to perpetuate childish behavior. Childish thinking. Childish emotions. Childish language.
Do you
Yes.
think it's because it's pushed on, even though you're trying to wean a person off, baby off, whatever, but I feel like it's pushed so much, it's pushed so much in your face as the truth.
Yes.
It comes at you as a package, this is the truth.
Yes. Yeah.
And trying to fight against that is difficult.
It is.
You may have one, if you come from a good family or your community, it's like that small community, and it's big things telling what you're being taught.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
that's ridiculous.
Yes.
And what we are pushing is the truth.
Yes.
And it definitely takes a strong person, a strong
It
village
does.
or whatever.
It does.
But,
Nah, you on it though.
No, go ahead, Sister Trina.
Nah.
I think it's just a battle within the person, I think, to try to figure it out. And I think you slide maybe at times, even try to, it's an ongoing battle,
Yeah,
I feel like.
it is. It is. I think you want to say something, fella?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I have something to add to that. So one of the questions I had that has to do exactly with that is that it's definitely pushed on you in order to we exist in an institution, as you said, that
Mhm.
forces their ideals on us.
Yes.
And even though they might not be we know that it's a facade in some type of way.
Yes.
And I think that what I'm trying to say here is how do you exist in that? Because we have to play the game in
Mhm.
order to get where we want.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like my mom was saying, that you get bruised up trying to do it.
Yeah.
Know? And how do you know that what you want isn't necessarily influenced by the stuff that's being propagated to us?
Mm-hmm.
And that being said, like, and oh yeah, and we're human beings.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you do that? Is it realistic for us to? Are we like kind of like doomed in some type of way?
Mm-hmm.
Is it realistic for us to be able to go against this? I don't know. It's just how do you even do that? Is my question.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say personally, with me, is that I have identified that we live in a world oppressive environment, and people have need for self-expression. The clothes that they wear, the cars that they wear, and the people they interact with, right? So I know that because people express words in a way that that benefits, the class or group of people whom they around in the culture, right? So I'm aware of that. So what I do is I try to I don't want to use the word attack it, but because what I'm attacking really is that which we have been deprived of, as far as in a manner way to navigate and negotiate through this society, is that I try to do it in a manner of a way that when I see it, like I will address it or deal with it. Like even in this setting here, that was a manner of me, a way of sharing with you what I am dealing with and how I deal with it. You know what I'm saying? So you have your way of dealing with it. I have my way. Some people deal with it collectively. That the same thing what they say the so-called slaves. Some resisted individually. Some resisted collectively. Some attacked the slave ships. You know what I'm saying? Which is where the money was coming in. You know what I'm saying? People have a certain way of doing it. Now, don't think that the civil rights movement, that they wasn't attacking it. Because Dr. King said they used their language They used their language to put us at odds with them. Like, if you don't white ball, you black ball. Black sheep, you don't, a bad fact is not a white sheep, but a black sheep. So he did it, but you have to have a game. The aim, King said he wanted to restore the dignity of a people. Because anytime you use terms that is undignified, that's not good. So you have to have a goal, and that is to live a life of you want to restore your dignity. Be a dignified person, a person of integrity. But don't use that at the expense to continue to perpetuate and promote the myth and the lie that other folks have used to dignify them. You know what I'm saying? At the expense of you saying that you are dignified because you are the one that's pushing this, but at the expense of promoting the myth of the lie and keeping that and perpetuating and keeping that myth alive, which it ain't so. That's the challenge. One of the challenges is that too, as I always says that everything, the whole universe is created for us to benefit from. You know what I'm saying? So don't misuse that which is to benefit everyone, whereas that you are the sole person that is benefiting from it. This is how people become in a position of leadership and power. Because that same thing with Martin Luther when he identified music with the Protestant church. He said, "Oh, Catholics, you ain't the only one going to benefit from this. I'm protesting that. We want to benefit from it too." You know what I'm saying? So we all want to benefit from it. My challenge that we as a people, we can't become so victimized to a point that in order to get ahead on the power, that we continue to promote the victimization of our people by continuing to promote a myth and a lie that ain't so. I hope I answered your question.
No, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, like, when you see, like, with what's taking place now, there is a lot of value that can come with changing the narrative. So, our reality, that we're going to call African, those African descent, Black, African American, whatever. A lot of times it's been circumscribed for us. Name, where we have to be, the way that we're capitalized off of, exploited, all of that. But just as he mentioned, you can change that narrative from more of a deficit victimization stance to then taking on a term or name, as Brother Montu was saying, redefining what that means for us, or what that means for you. Just like it did in the 60s, whenever, James Brown, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud.
That's outdated. You shouldn't have to say that no more. In fact, he never even said it. But go ahead.
But my point is just saying that right there helped to really change how people conceptualize black. So recognizing the power that one has, or that a group of people has, to not be boxed in or pigeonholed and be defined, and have their reality be circumscribed to them. I think there's also a lot of value in really at the end of the day, picking and choosing your battles. Because when I think of NTU, I think about flexibility. I think about variety. I think about nuance, and I think about diversity. And so I would, say, this is something that Mr. Sar said countless times. This, that, and. So because words can be confusing, and because we navigate so many different social groups, so many different spaces with different people from different walks of life, I think there could be some merit in being able to adapt. But in your adapting, you're not necessarily being any less who you are. It's just another aspect of who you are. Like, I know there's some places I go, I'm Marcus. That's who I am. There's some places I go, Brother St. Kofa. Studio Tech. Some places I go, I'm Mr. Nix. Some places I go, I'm Baby. Right? But it's all a different aspect of who I am. So I think that it's important to know this stuff. But like I said, like if everybody's at a different place, and it's hard for people to go to a certain point if they're where they are. And so I found a lot of benefit in being where and talking on the ground first. Or else, like I said before, I think it might be then hard to make a connection or to resonate. And then the last thing I'll say, I know you was trying to say something on my down. The only other thing I was going to say was I think that I think you gotta kind of be careful sometimes to, like, I know sometimes we take on these identities, black, mixed race, whatever. But what also happens is it becomes, you can become territorial, or it's this enemy versus competition type of hostile type of thing. So, I would say maybe perhaps the healthier route is, if you have to subscribe to what you subscribe to, that's cool. If Brother Montu is proud in who he is, he embraces who he is, I would think he don't need to down nobody or demean or bash nobody to uplift him. Why would you do that if you stand on your square and you confident in who you say you are? But that's not what I see a lot of times. I see it. This is who I am, and we about to. We superior, you know, what do you say with the illusion of grandeur? We think we better, da, da, da. It's an arrogance, and I don't really like that approach. So
I think it's really interesting that you said that too, because I know people who are like that, you know, or who have been like they've gone through trends of that, you know. Today I'm here, you know, and that's the best thing that a person can be. You know, I'm Muslim now, so anybody that ain't Muslim is dumb, you know, but then you see them a few weeks later and I'm Rasta, you know. So this is the best thing that a person can be, you know. Yeah.
right.
But what I was really gonna say was, I think it's interesting too that Matu said that your lecture was set for a graduate level, because some of the things that I put asterisks and stars by were the most simple things that you said as I was taking notes, like discomfort brings growth. You know, to me that's very true, because you can get set in your ways and get, you know, almost start to fester and rot there. But then, you know, that rot, you start to smell it, you know, and so it becomes uncomfortable to you. And that's when you realize, okay, I gotta do something about this now. I gotta change this. So, and then the definition you said of raise really made me think of a mother raising her children. And the whole, because, you know, that's what they always say, did you raise that child right, you know? And what you said was it to give them greater sense of value and awareness. And I think that's very important, that really needs to be something for a new mother, especially to make as her goal in how she's going to bring up her children, you know, for them to have a greater sense of value and awareness. And you talked about relationships, and that just means knowing your boundaries and your limitations in order to have a successful relationship.
Yes, ma'am.
So I really appreciate the things that you said out of that, them 3 little letters into, you gave us a whole lot. You know, and even, you know, with you coming in saying, what are you into?
Yes,
You know,
ma'am.
that was,
Yes, ma'am.
that's cool, man.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Master of language.
Yeah.
I think, sister, you had something to say?
Oh, no.
Okay. What about you?
Oh, me?
Brother.
I guess I got one more question.
Thank
I think
you,
it was
thank you,
about, capacity training. Could you like maybe elaborate more?
Yeah, let's
about
look at
that?
the correct definition on that, so we can be clear. You got your phone with you? Yeah, look at it on your phone. Capacity training. See what it says. Putting you to work, man.
So for the definition, it says training is just one element of capacity development. It's usually focused on providing skills for specific problems. That's what I got.
That's what it is. Yeah. Now, let's look at another example. Do you think that if you look at the civil rights movement, you think that wasn't capacity training? Because they was in their face. They were training them to be resistant. That was training them, buddy. Yeah. Yeah. It's like in the military. How much can you take? It's like when you go through even initiation. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I have to be truthful. That broke me.
Oh
Say
yeah.
what?
It broke me because I was like, say, early 20s or whatever, and was working with Operation Breadbasket.
Yeah.
Operation
Breadbasket. Yeah.
Breadbasket, and they told us we had to go through this training where, you know, they were gonna shoot us with the water
Yeah.
hoses and
There you
throw
go.
eggs on us and all
There
this
you go.
stuff. I said, "Some out of here."
Yeah. See what I'm saying? How much you can tolerate.
That's when I decided I had to think about it.
Yeah.
Am I really about
Yeah.
non-violence?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
am I going?
Yeah.
Am I ready to fight back?
Good stuff. Good stuff though.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
And went and started another organization.
Yeah.
Had a little bit different concept.
Yes, ma'am. That's good stuff. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
Didn't know that coming, Tommy. Didn't catch that story.
Yeah, I know.
But you see, they said at the, and I always use this, we have to discuss, they said in order to form a more perfect union, they discuss things at length and depth in detail. And they say they have political power and they got economic power. This is how they control people's social habits. So the conducive was environment by a term that I expressed capacity training. And it resonated with the what's your name, fella?
My name is Anthony.
Anthony? Yeah, with Anthony. It resonated with Anthony, whereas he wanted to know what capacity training was. Then it brought out a jewel that none of us really knew about her. You know what I'm saying? Because I talked about the civil rights, about the pastor, how they was in their face. You know what I'm saying? So the environment must be conducive for it. You know what I'm saying? So we are working these things out. We are operating, whether we know it about, in the NTU spirit. Yes, it's on a daily basis. Yeah, think about it though. Sister, you want something you want to say?
No, I just been just thinking about just absorbing all the stuff that we speaking about or whatever. Right now, I'm currently trying to utilize the boundaries, quasi relationship
Yeah.
things or whatever. One of the hardest things. You get a whole lot of backlash. I mean, utilize the word no or no, I cannot do or.
Yeah, yeah,
So I was just meditating and thinking.
yeah.
One of the, whatever.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say that, in that, I think that, how you doing, son? I was just gonna speak to what Trina was saying in reference to, the boundaries sometimes. And I think sometimes it depends on how we explain it, because the better we are for a person, the better we are, like, so my boundary, if I need my time, is gonna make me better in what I need to do, and that's gonna make the relationship better. You know what I'm saying? If I'm operating at my peak, I gotta operate at peak in a relationship. You understand what I'm saying? So I think sometimes it's a matter of, just how we deliver. I think, delivery is a lot. Sometimes people may take it or be defensive, but they think, well, you don't want to do this or you don't do this with me. And I think that sometimes if we kind of twist it and be like, you know what, I gotta do what's best for me, what's best for me. If I'm at my peak in this, I can be best for this whole thing that we trying to do. You know what I'm saying? If I'm not at my best in this, you know what I'm saying, you're gonna get a lot of pushback and stuff like that. So that's to that. But I do understand what you're saying, brother Kevin. One thing I would like to kind of use as a kind of supplement sometimes for race is just more or less like culture.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think culture is that paradigm that vehicle that we can use outside of the racial element.
got you.
Because I think culture is different.
Yes,
And those values different. Those principles different.
I got you.
Depending on what culture you're in.
I got you.
So if we're in a culture in which is very competitive,
Yes, sir.
and it's like dog eat dog,
Yes,
you
sir.
can choose not to participate in that type of culture, but more participate in a more conducive culture, a culture that's more cooperative. Like you mentioned.
Listen, that's good. You see, not.
So
Yeah.
outside of the race thing, outside because it's hard to identify. We all identify. We all, it's been so imprinted on our minds that everything you see, you don't just see the first you see that color.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't undo that
Yeah.
for the most part. So I think more or less you can still be noble and kind, but I think that more or less culturally you can be culturally sound. So now we can still have some elements of the things that we're proud of, but basically behind a culture, culture that's more inclusive and more competitive. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that competition. Sometimes it'll wear you out.
Yeah.
If I know him on the same team and him on the same team and all we on the same team, I know that if I fall short, he gonna get it. He's not gonna say, yo, why you ain't do this? Why you ain't do this? It's like, bro, I got it. You understand what I'm saying? So I think because I think a lot of times when we take something away, we got to give something to somebody. So we can't just say, quote unquote, they ain't no Jesus, and then you leave them hanging. And you like, what I'm gonna do? You know what I'm saying? So you got in that same notion of when you you removing the thing as it's something as significant to a lot of us as race. It has taken on significance in a lot of our lives, but we've been deprived of so much, so we hold it like our coat. Like, you didn't take this away from. So it's like, if you're gonna, in some ways, if we're gonna kind of take or pull something away, I think it's always good to give that something in place as a supplement, because it's like, that's a lot. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah. I think you were marvelous. I think you were exceptional. I think your thought process is top 5 that are alive.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. I say that what the topic was what not on what the topic was what are you into, and some establish one position, what are you advocating for, and what what your community and what's supporting your position. He just did that. He just supported his position because he just reasoned with progression. He said, well, man, yeah, we can. I would like to say, well, replace it with culture. You see what I'm saying? That's healthy. That's healthy reasoning. You know what I'm saying? So he just took a position. You know what I'm saying? That's powerful there. Because you look at a child. I always go back to a child. When that child is crawling on his 4 legs, he takes a position to want to stand on his what? His own 2 feet. Huh? That's a power. Man, the examples are right before us. We're overlooking them. That's all right before us. Stand on your own 2 feet.
Yeah, because
it means conviction, by the way. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because we operate in the society in which we operate, people do cling to certain things, and I think the question can even be asked if there even is a need to for a person to have to see themselves another way. If it's something that is helping them and it's empowering them, it's working, it's serving them, do they? But it's also good to go higher and to continue to evolve, because like you so eloquently stated in your wonderful lecture, Brother Kevin, we're always evolving.
Yeah.
But we have different thresholds. So Satrina's threshold might be different than Jamil's, different than Brother Montu, different than Mandana. We're at different places, and I think that it's important to know where people are at in the process. One of the things that registered with me when you give a message and different things hit on different strings for different people depending on what's going on was this whole acceptance piece. I noticed and I took note. You emphasized that a lot. Acceptance to change, patience. This whole the judgment piece, and I think even when we set our boundaries and we say no, or we are eloquently articulated and all of that, like sometimes we may have to leave room for a person to still go through their process, because because I know there's been times I might hesitate to say I don't want them at the house talking about me. I don't want to make them mad. But I'm not necessarily doing anything heinous or malice or wrong. But perhaps the person may have been through some abandonment issues, or perhaps the person may have been dealing with some harsh realities that ain't got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
But hey, that's where they are, and so I think it can be easy to fall into the trap of imposing our expectations on other people. We can hold people hostage and hold people prisoner to our expectations. You should do this, and that could, and so when you said go from bitter to better, that bitter piece, woo, that bitter piece, that entitlement, that you shoulda,
Sure.
One thing that I would say challenge, because I think it was a valid point, but I would add to it, was when you mentioned how individuals can come into the world and get contaminated, which there's definitely a lot of trauma, a lot of violence, a lot of brutal stuff that goes on. But from a strength-based approach, I would say come into the world with all types of opportunity to be able to manifest your gifts, to be able to connect and grow and blossom and flourish. And it doesn't negate or minimize the fact that there are, there's vices and things out there. But I think some may look at this world as this dangerous, scary kind of reality. And of course, the media does a huge job at selling that gloom and doom narrative, But I think looking at it from another perspective and connecting that to I'm thinking that there's beauty in our experience. There's beauty in our world. There's beauty in everything. Even in struggle, there's beauty. So that's all.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, well, you guys hit on a whole lot, especially a lot of stuff that you were saying. I think the acceptance piece or whatever. I've learned that, even just the titles, like mom, dad, child, all these things and stuff like that. You have these expectations. As parents, sometimes you have expectations on what your child's supposed to be like, or we have an expectation on what we envision the role of a parent's supposed to be like, or whatever. Sometimes you may not get that, and it's because you have this expectation on what it's supposed to be, and this is not, and you're not getting at least you're not feeling like you're getting what that expectation is, and it comes to a point where you just have to accept what you have, and look at the person as a human being instead of this person with no flaws. You know what I mean? And accept that, and then live by what you have, and not by what you want. And grieving that, I think I had went to that point with grieving the getting over that part of the idea of what I wanted or whatever, for the acceptance piece. And I think that's for me in life in general, just general relationships. I think, even with a mate or whatever, you have this. I think I probably still have a high level. I'm not high, but I don't know, whatever.
Pretty high. That's pretty up there.
No, I'm doing some. I'm doing some. But yeah.
You're older, were you?
I ain't perfect, but coming to accepting people for who they are or whatever. But accepting doesn't mean that means I see you for who you are, or at least how I perceive you or who you are or whatever, and dealing with you on that level. But also you gotta have those boundaries on certain things or whatever. If you feel like it's hurtful or harmful to you and all these types of things or whatever, you have to come to a place where you can meet or whatever. But where you, I've read in the book where you end and they begin, meaning sometimes there's a division or whatever. But it was deep.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I know Minister Starr has said several times that I'm a very sensitive person, and I think that's true. But at the same time, I've kind of grown to a level where I care less about what other people think, and I feel good about that. Because it's not like I'm trying to be hardcore or anything like that, but it's just that I've grown to see that there's less value in really worrying or caring about whether other people are thinking about what I'm doing or where I'm at. Because my whole thing is, as long as I ain't stepping on your toes, ain't bothering you, just leave me alone. and if I want to work with you, I'll work with you. And if I'm gonna work with you, I'm gonna do my best. Because that's what I think work is supposed to be about, is doing your best with somebody. But but like I said, at the same time, I don't get as caught up in the criticisms. At least that's what I tell myself.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is that once again, sister has established her position, and she's able to articulate that, and that which supports her position and that which she is advocating for, and you just did the same thing. You know, once we clear on that, then we can stand our ground. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to waver. You know, whatever it is that comes down the pipe, and you too, fellas, and whatever it is, Anthony, whatever it is that comes down the pipe, then you just deal with it. So we don't want to have to waver. Now the reason why I asked your son his name, I didn't want to call him your son. I wanted to call him Anthony, because that means that's his name. You know what I'm saying? That's intentional. Yeah, I do things intentional. I do things intentional. Trust me. Huh? Yeah, it's right. That's right. So, but yeah, and we have to be, and if we can discuss things, we could explain to people why we do things, because they may not know. Because we have to continue to judicially reinforce things. You know what I'm saying? Because we have to work so hard that which has been socially constructed against us. You know what I'm saying? So we have to work hard to counter that, man. We have to work hard to counter it.
I want my kids to be independent thinkers. I don't want I want them to be good. You see everything I say. But even challenge whatever I said. I want them to be their own whatever, and I have to be okay with whatever that looks like or whatever. That's what I want for myself. So if I want that for myself, I gotta give it up, right?
I hear you. Yeah, and Sankofa, my core values opportunity, expression, and appreciation. So I know that when it's an opportunity, that's why I said that this creation is here to benefit us. So it's opportunity to express appreciation. That's my 3 core values. So yeah. But so any closing remarks? We want to.
I just want to accolades for what you just said, because I hate it when I see parents who it's so obvious that they're trying to make trophies out of their children.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that, not to say that I think you should be proud of what your child has accomplished, but to try to make your child be a mini you. That I think that's a real disservice, because I think what I did, I felt like my parents didn't give me or push me as hard as I wish they had.
Mm-hmm.
But so I probably over pushed my own children. As a result of that, I kept them busy when they were under my thumb. I was one of those people had them trying to be in everything, but my whole thing was I wanted them to have a taste of lots of different things so they could base their choices upon real information and not just walk into a door, but know where they were going.
I feel as though people are hard because they perhaps have unfulfilled aspirations, and so they can now, through their child and their offspring, carry out those unmet things.
I don't think that's right.
And I tell you what's interesting. So, Olympics is going on. It's all this talk about Simone Biles this, Simone Biles that. So, Gabby Douglas, she kind of rolled off into the sunset. There was a moment of time before we heard of Simone. It was all about Gabby. Let me see what's up with Gabby.
Move the arrow to the red and just hit it.
So I came across her biography. I didn't get into it super deep. Read a couple of the first page introduction, and it was saying that one of her reasons why she didn't want to continue because of the pressure that she was receiving by being pushed and pushed and pushed some more till it was impacting her mental health. It was impacting her capacity to give her best self to her craft, to being a gymnast. And she had gotten to a point where her threshold was said, no more. I can no longer do this. And that's just a story that is out there. I bet a lot of that's just in the sports realm. You see it in the academic realm.
You
see it. You know, you see it in many different realms. You know, I know Brother Bond too with Maul doesn't do it, but I seen even when I was playing. Oh man, the parents how they. I mean, you probably even seen it. It's oh.
Yeah, I remember refereeing a volleyball game. And I was a student at the time, and they were like, "Hey, Trin, we need another ref to do the volleyball game. You mind doing it?
Mine too.
Just gotta call it." I'm trying to tell you, that was the kid, the parent. I made a call. I'm like, I'm a child, y'all.
They said she else is the trigger.
Hey, when you get a chance, man, go around and hit, because we moving off the conversation. Just hit that red button for me. You see, what Earl is to stop it.
Treat me because they didn't agree with the call that I made or whatever. So just imagine, living under those type of
Thank you.